Hello students, my name is Gaurav Bansal and we are going to start this session on the banking. This is 11th session in the PT revision, and if you have not watched the previous videos, kindly go back and watch these as well, and these are independent, so you can watch this right now and then you can watch the others as well. Now let us start with our session. In this session, first of all, I will summarize the banking and then we will look at the MCQs. So first of all, we will discuss the role of bank. So what is the role of bank? There is a topic which is mentioned in our syllabus, and that is resource mobilization. Resource mobilization means that how any economy is going to mobilize the resources, arrange the resources for its growth, for investment. So resource mobilization is the process generate investments. Okay, this process generates the investments. Now, how are investments generated? Investments are generated from savings. People have savings, but they do not know what to do with the excess money. For example, somebody has salary of 1.5 lakh rupees per month. His expenditure is 1.1 lakh rupees per month. Every month this person is able to save 40,000 rupees, but this person doesn't know what to do with this 40,000. Most of the people, what they do when they can't think of anything else, they put this money in bank. Okay, our savings, they go to bank. Then bank give loan, and people who take loan, companies which take loan, they invest that money into various production processes. Not all loans create investment, but a vast majority of them do create investment. So bank convert savings into investment. This is the prime responsibility of the banks. Okay, so that is why banks are considered so important for an economy, because they do the resource mobilization. Now it is not the bank only which do the resource mobilization. Apart from bank, capital markets, money markets, basically financial markets also do the same. For example, I have extra money. That money I can put into stocks as well. I can buy stocks, shares with that money. In that case, resource mobilization is happening through capital market. So resource mobilization can happen through number of different instruments. Bank is one of the most important of these. Government also do resource mobilization. Government takes our money through taxation, then invests that money into economy. So government does resource mobilization through taxation, through other businesses, and by mobilizing savings also. So government had different schemes in which you can deposit money and get interest, like Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana, like Provident Fund, etc. So government also do some banking roles, perform some banking role in the economy. So this is the primary role of the bank, resource mobilization. Now when a bank does resource mobilization, it promotes the savings. When we put our money into banks, we get interest, and that encourages us to keep more and more with bank, to save money and keep with bank, because that can earn more money for us. So promotion of saving is done through incentivization. Bank pay interest to people, which incentivize people to save more. So there is promotion of savings by the bank. And then bank, they do the credit creation, simply the process of creation of loan. So this is what bank's role is in the economy. There are other roles as well. For example, promoting financial inclusion, providing services to people. Okay, so bank does a number of such jobs as well. So for example, if banking network is very strong, that promotes financial inclusion. That means majority of population understand the financial services, is able to utilize banking service, is able to get an account, and that encourages the savings behavior in common people also. So this is also a role of bank. Now, what are the features or functions of bank? So a bank must accept deposit. Okay, a bank cannot say no to anyone that हम आपका deposit नहीं लेंगे, we will not accept your deposit. This is a conditionality on bank. Bank has to accept deposit. Okay. Secondly, bank gives loan, but again this side there is no conditionality. You can't say to bank that you have to give loan to me. So that depends upon the credit profile of a person. Loan creation. And what are the other functions? If we are talking about core functions of bank, then there are 3 core functions of bank. Okay, deposit acceptance, secondly credit creation. Credit creation is prerogative of bank. Bank can decide to whom they want to give loan. And thirdly, a very important function, payments. Banks process payment. You can make payments through bank, through NEFT, RTGS, by giving check to someone. So there are various ways. Nowadays, because of UPI, we use our bank account for payments for even small day-to-day payments, which otherwise were through cash. So these are the core functions of the bank. Okay. Then there are supplementary function. What are supplementary function? For example, forex exchange. Some bank branch do forex exchange. They can give you dollars or euros instead of rupees, in exchange of rupees. So these are certain specified bank branches. These functions are not performed by all the branches, whereas core function are performed by every branch. Similarly, extra functions we have, for example, locker facility. Not all branches have locker. Okay, so that is also branch to branch. Some of the smaller branches do not have locker facility. So there is a function of locker facility also. Then DD, CD, certificate of deposit, and many other. So additional services can be number of them. Okay, for example, utility bill payment. Many of the bank, for example SBI, also perform the utility bill payment for various utilities. You could pay your electricity bill through SBI at one point of time. Okay, so basically those additional services can be very long list. We can't even make a proper list. This is just to give you an example. Whereas basic function, compulsory functions are these. A bank will do deposit acceptance. It will accept the deposits. It will create credit. It may not create credit for everyone. It can say no to a person if bank feel that person is not able to repay the loan. Then payment processing is also something that a bank has to do. So these are core function, these are supplementary function. So I hope the role of bank and the functions are quite clear. Then we come to the last part, that is types of the bank. So there is scheduled versus non-scheduled. So scheduled banks are those which are in the Schedule 2 of the RBI Act. So scheduled banks basically which are registered with RBI. Non-scheduled banks which are not registered with RBI. Okay. So all the commercial banks are scheduled banks. All the commercial, by the way. Okay. Only some very handful institutions are non-scheduled today. Otherwise, most of the banks in the country are scheduled. Now, what is the exception for the non-scheduled banks and what are the special facility for scheduled bank? If a bank is scheduled, it is registered with RBI. It get all the support from RBI. It get the deposit insurance facility, whereas non-scheduled banks do not get deposit insurance facility. Secondly, these scheduled banks, they get support from different institutions. Okay, for example, depositories, they get support from other payment clearance organization. Okay, so clearing corporations we call them. So those are also organizations which support only the scheduled bank. Then RBI maintains CRR only for scheduled banks. RBI does not maintain CRR for non-scheduled bank. Non-scheduled bank have to maintain CRR on their own. They have to maintain CRR but with themselves. Okay. In addition, any other extra facility that RBI provides will not be available to the non-scheduled banks. So this is the difference between scheduled versus non-scheduled. Any bank that is registered with RBI, that affiliates itself with RBI, becomes a scheduled bank, and it is a government order to scheduleize almost all the banks in India. For example, the urban cooperative banks and all the upper cooperative banks above them, they have all been made scheduled banks because it was made necessary for them to become registered with RBI. So they all registered themselves with RBI. Only the primary credit societies are not necessarily required to become scheduled. For them it is a choice. So this is the difference between scheduled versus non-scheduled. Then we have commercial versus cooperative. So there are essentially 2-3 differences. In the cooperative bank, the loans are given only to the member or shareholder of the bank, not to other general public. So unlike other banks, they provide loan only to their members. Then starting cooperative banks is very easy, and that is as per the Cooperative Societies Act. Okay. Once they are established and they achieve a certain minimum size, they can be recognized as urban cooperative bank, and then they have to register with RBI also. So they are not created by RBI, they join RBI, whereas commercial banks are created by RBI license. This is the difference. Another difference is that for commercial banks, the startup capital requirements are very high, whereas for cooperative banks, startup capital requirements are very low. Okay. Otherwise, the SLR, CRR targets, etc. are same for them. So this is commercial versus cooperative. Then we have differentiated versus universal. Now, universal banks are those where we do not have exceptions. All of the universal bank perform every function of the bank without any exception. Okay. Universal banks have to maintain CRR, they have to maintain SLR at the stipulated rate of 18, 19, whatever is the current rate, and all the universal banks have to meet the priority sector lending at 40%. Okay, and then they have to meet all other targets. They have no limits on deposits. They have no restrictions on lending. So universal banks are those. In fact, most of the banks that we know about, they are universal banks, whether it is SBI, whether it is Punjab National Bank, whether it is HDFC. Okay, all of these are universal banks. Traditionally, we only had universal banks. Later on, very recently, there was a committee which suggested we should create differentiated banks also for financial inclusion. That committee was Nachiket More Committee. So differentiated banks were created on the recommendation of Nachiket More Committee. And since now a different category is created, RRB are also recognized as differentiated banks. Okay, earlier we used to recognize them as separately. We used to consider them as a universal bank. There was no concept of universal bank actually. All of these were simply commercial banks. Okay. Now within commercial also we have differentiated versus universal. So differentiated banks have certain twist regarding their rules. Okay, universal. We'll talk about differentiated. First we talk about universal. All the public sector banks. So that include the SBI and all the nationalized banks. Okay. Then all the private banks. So Kotak Mahindra, HDFC, ICICI. Okay, all of those are private banks. Absolutely all the rules are same for PSU or private bank. Then we have foreign banks. Rules are same for foreign banks also, but there is only one restriction on foreign banks. They can offer services only to corporates, only to firms, not to household. Foreign banks cannot open the savings account, for example. They can open current account with firms, or they can offer some salary account to the employees in the companies which are similar to savings account. Okay? But directly they cannot offer service to household. They cannot offer service to household, they can only offer service to firms. So only that exception is there in the case of foreign banks. Then we have differentiated banks. Here some rule is different, that is why we call them differentiated. So RRB have a rule that 75% of their loan should be for priority sector lending. Okay, so for RRB, priority sector lending is 75%. Okay. Similarly, for payment bank, there is a restriction. In fact, there are 2-3 restrictions. First of all, they cannot accept deposit above 1 lakh rupees. Now, this is a data which is subject to change. Okay, this can be updated. There is no fixed rule. This will always remain 1 lakh. But initially, it was 50,000. Very quickly, it was enhanced to 1 lakh. So basically, payment bank cannot take deposit more than 1 lakh. Secondly, they cannot create loan. Okay, payment bank do not create loan. So this is where they are differentiated from other universal banks. They do not do credit creation. This is one serious challenge with the payment banks. So what do they do with the money? वो लोगों से पैसा ले रहे हैं, उसका क्या करते हैं? They are taking deposits from public and they pay interest. What are they? How they are paying interest? So basically, what they do, they purchase the government bonds. And they can purchase bond with almost entire amount, but 75% is minimum requirement for them. So for payment bank, SLR, statutory liquidity ratio, is also 75%. My handwriting is not good with this board, but 75% SLR. Okay, this is for payment bank. In addition, they do not create loan. And what else can they do? With the remaining money, they can open fixed deposit with the other commercial banks. So that is also an option for them. They can issue debit card but cannot issue credit card, because credit card would mean they are giving loan. So these are restrictions on payment bank. Similarly, for small finance bank also, there are restrictions. They can accept deposit up to certain limit. Okay, up to 1 lakh. Similarly, small finance bank can create loan, but there are restrictions. They also have 75% priority sector lending target. Then the small finance bank cannot create bigger loans beyond a certain limit. Okay, so there is a limit that more than 10% of their loans cannot be beyond a certain amount. So these are the restrictions on the small finance banks. So since this is a revision class, I am not covering each and every point related to these. Now let us shift to MCQs. Let us look at the question number 1, and these are all previous year questions. The chairman of public sector banks are selected by Bank Board Bureau, Reserve Bank of India, Union Ministry of Finance, management of the concerned bank. The answer is Bank Board Bureau. Well, this is supposed to change now. Okay, so the Bank Board Bureau recently has been enlarged, and its role is now extended to all India finance institutions also. So Bank Board Bureau, it has been enhanced. Try to think about it. Towards the end of class, I'll talk about it. Okay, once again. So Bank Board Bureau was created by the recommendations of Pulin J. Nayak Committee. So there was a Pulin Nayak committee or Pulin J Nayak committee which was created for public sector banks. It suggested creation of Bank Board Bureau. And the same Pulin J Nayak committee gave its recommendation which later became popular as the Mission Indradhanush for public sector banks. So one of the recommendation of Mission Indradhanush was to create Bank Board Bureau. This has been highly successful. Okay. So since it was created, the chairman or other senior directors in public sector banks, they are selected by the Bank Board Bureau. Answer is A. Question number 2. The service area approach was implemented under the purview of. Now this question actually is talking about a very old scheme. So in the 1970s, a scheme, lead bank scheme, was initiated by government to use the bank for development of the country. Under that, banks were given many additional targets apart from banking functions. One of the aspect of the lead bank scheme was service area approach. So this is a very old scheme. So this question, although came in 2019, is talking about a very old scheme. Now, if they are going to ask about old scheme, that cannot be very obscure or let us say very less important scheme. This lead bank scheme was one of the most important feature of the banking at one point of time. So lead bank scheme is actually very important. Okay, so and in fact this question is very easy because you can rule out other schemes very easily. Skill development mission definitely is not related to it. But you need to know about service area approach, that at least this is about banking, then only you can figure it out. If you know this is about banking, then it is very easy to figure out it is B. Okay. In case you do not know it is about banking, then yes, it is difficult. Question number 3. Which of the following is not included in the assets of a commercial bank in India? Assets. Assets are what I have to claim from others, what belongs to bank and bank has to claim. Liability, what I have to give back to other. So for a bank, if we define liability, liabilities are what bank has to give back. And what is that bank has to give back? It is deposits. So bank deposits are its liabilities. In fact, the total deposit in our banking system are defined as NDTL, net demand and time liabilities. That itself will give you good enough hint. The bank's deposits, they are defined as NDTL, net demand and time liabilities. Demand liabilities, basically what can be demanded from bank any point of time without any penalty. Time liabilities, which cannot be asked from bank at any point of time, and if somebody is going to ask bank to pay back time liability, then bank may have a penalty on that. Basically your fixed deposits, reoccurring deposits are time liabilities of bank. Bank has to give them back, but only after a certain period. If you want that back immediately, bank will not give you much of interest on that. So deposits are liability. And what are assets? Assets are loans. Okay, the loans that bank has given, they are assets. In fact, when bank is unable to recover its assets on time properly, then we also call them NPA, non-performing asset. That also is a good hint to remember assets. Now let us look at the option. Advances. Advances are given on current accounts, credit cards. Okay, you do not take a loan technically. There is no agreement. Basically, you take an advance permission. If you have a credit card limit, that is basically an advance that bank has given you. Against that limit, against that advance, you can spend money any point of time. advances, generally used in the context of current accounts. Deposits. Deposits are not assets, deposits are liabilities. So answer is B for sure. But still, if we look at other areas, investments are assets. Okay, although in India we do not allow banks physical investments in other areas from the public liabilities. If there is money which belongs to bank shareholders, with that they can make investment. Money at call and short notice, well, that can be a asset or liability depending upon whether bank is giving it or taking it. So D is bit dicey. B definitely is the answer. D can be both asset or liability. Question number 4. With reference to urban cooperative banks in India, consider the following statement. They are supervised and regulated by local boards set up by the state government. That is incorrect. They are supervised and regulated by District Central Cooperative Bank and through NABARD by RBI, because all the urban cooperative banks have to register with RBI. So all urban cooperative banks are scheduled banks. They can issue equity shares and preference shares, that is correct. Urban cooperative banks can issue shares and both type of shares. In fact, on a personal note, I have a lot of shares of a cooperative bank. I am one of the member of a cooperative bank. And in fact, just tomorrow there is an election to that cooperative bank. I'm going to vote for the director position there. I mean, I'm going to vote for, I'm not contesting for, okay, do not misinterpret. Third, they were brought under the purview of the Banking Regulation Act 1949 through an amendment in 1966. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay, so all the urban cooperative banks are scheduled because of this. Answer should be B, 2 and 3. Next question. Question number 5. With reference to the scheduled banks, consider the following statement. Scheduled banks are those which are included in the Schedule 2 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Second, in scheduled banks, more than 50% stake is held by the government. Third, cooperative banks can be categorized as scheduled banks. Okay, first one. First statement, the scheduled banks are those which are included in the Schedule 2 of the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Now this is very much related to a previous question. Let us look at it. They were brought under the purview of the Banking Regulation Act 1949 through an amendment in 1966. So because they were brought under Banking Regulation Act 1949, that means they became scheduled. Okay, so but what is problematic here? There are a lot of banks which are also under Banking Regulation Act 1934 as well. Okay, so scheduled banks are those which are included in this schedule. This statement is incorrect because we are giving an affirmative statement. If the statement would be scheduled banks could be included in this second schedule of 1949, that would be correct because urban cooperative banks are there, but other banks, they are in 1934 Act schedule. So that makes this statement incorrect. Second, the scheduled banks, in scheduled banks more than 50% stake is held by government. This is wrong. Only in PSU banks, public sector undertaking banks, okay, SBI and the United and the Oriental Bank, okay, Punjab National Bank. Now since many of them have been merged, maybe some of them may not exist like they used to earlier, like Dena Bank has been merged with some other bank, okay, like Canara Bank is there. So likewise Syndicate Bank, there are many of them. Some of them cease to exist today because they have been merged. but they are public sector banks, and over there government has more than 50% stake, not in all the scheduled banks. HDFC is a scheduled bank, ICICI is a scheduled bank, even let us say Ratnakar Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank is a scheduled bank. Of course government doesn't own stakes there. Third, cooperative banks can be categorized as scheduled banks. That is correct. Okay, we have already discussed this enough. Answer is C, 3 only. Question number 6. Both payment bank and small finance bank can accept demand deposits. What are demand deposits? DD for the payments. So yes, there is no problem. Payment bank may not be able to create loan, but they can accept demand deposits. Okay, you want to deposit money into your account, you get a DD from someone, you deposit it to your account. That is very valid, and it is allowed in both. Payment bank can offer loan. It is already wrong here, because payment bank cannot offer loan, but small finance bank cannot offer loan. So it is actually other way around. Easy picking here. Both payment bank and small finance bank must invest 75% of their deposit in government securities. So this restriction is only for payment bank. Small finance bank follow the standard 40% priority sector, 75% SLR. My bad, sorry. I'm mixing up some of the terms. The small finance bank must adhere to 18 or 19% SLR as per the monetary policy rule of that time. So in this case, only one is correct. C would be the answer. 7th, with reference to neobanks seen in the news sometimes, which one of the following statement is correct? So these are virtual banks that provide banking experience through digital platform is actually correct here. Okay, you can look at the other statements. All of these are incorrect. Neobank need licenses from RBI to operate. No. They operate only in rural area through common service center. No. These are banks having physical branches. Obviously, no. 8th, consider the following statement with reference to the regional rural banks. Their area of operation is restricted only to rural areas. This is wrong. Because rural is in their name doesn't mean that they have to offer service only in rural area. So that is obviously wrong. They predominantly provide services in rural area, but this is not a restriction. Second, they work under the exclusive supervision of the NABARD. That is also incorrect. They are a standard commercial bank. They are not under NABARD. Again, people make this mistake because they think RRB has some relationship with cooperatives. RRBs are not cooperative. Cooperative work under NABARD. RRBs are required to provide 75% of credit as priority sector lending. This I mentioned earlier when I was talking about differentiated banks. So third is correct. Answer is C, 3 only. Okay. I hope everything is fine so far. Okay. In case you feel there is some doubt, some objection, some question that you want to raise, or you disagree with the answer, maybe you can put it in the comments. I will reply on it as soon as possible. Next, consider the following statement regarding different types of ATMs. Okay. Not a very important topic, but still nobody knows what UPSC can ask you. So 9th question, in brown label ATM, the hardware is owned by the sponsor bank. That is incorrect. In the brown label ATM services are provided by a specific bank. Okay, and that bank collect the service charge from other bank. So brown label ATM hardware generally doesn't belong to bank. Hardware is provided by third parties companies. Okay, bank simply pay to those companies for the hardware and maintenance, but bank maintain everything in that. Okay, whereas white label ATM, they are set up, owned and operated by non-bank entity. That is correct. You may have seen some ATMs, basically they do not belong to any specific bank. They are provided by a third party. You can use those ATM. Okay, there used to be one It's Cash card, for example. They also provided some ATMs. Now they are not a banking entity, yet they had ATM, and any bank card was acceptable on that ATM. And when you make a transaction, your bank had to pay to that It's card company. So white label ATM do not belong to any bank. They are provided by third party, and whenever their bank's client use that ATM, bank have to make payment to that service provider. So that is how they work. That is why banks have limits on ATM withdrawals. Home ATM, third party ATM, likewise. Because bank have to pay for their usage. With reference to Basel III norms, consider the following. Okay, in this case only 2 is correct. Okay, ninth answer is B. Next question, with reference to Basel III norms, consider the following statement. Liquidity coverage ratio. Okay, so in Basel III, although we usually talk about the CAR, capital adequacy ratio, but there are additional targets which are not discussed that prominently in Indian context but still are there. One of them is leverage ratio, another is liquidity ratio. So liquidity ratio or coverage ratio basically helps the bank to maintain adequate liquidity in the bank branch. This is there to prevent the bank from the problem of bank run. Bank run. What is the bank run? A situation when bank can run out of cash or liquidity. Think of a situation. A bank has taken deposit from public, lot of public, and all that money bank has given out as a loan. Now, if for some reason a lot of people come back and say, give our deposit back, or people simply are withdrawing money, at one point of time, bank will run out of money, bank will run out of cash, because bank cannot do the same. Bank cannot go to its clients. People who have taken loan from bank can tell them, sir, you took a car loan from us, give it back immediately. आप वो सारा लोन आज ही वापस कर दो. You give back the entire loan today. That is something which is not possible for the banks. But banks deposits can face the same situation. That is why bank must maintain lot of cash. In India, CRR actually saves the bank from bank run, because RBI holds a lot of cash for bank, which belongs to bank, by the way. Okay, so bank's cash they have to deposit with RBI. If there is emergency, then RBI can immediately mobilize cash. RBI can order nearby branches of other banks and they will supply cash to that branch where the problem is faced, or to the specific bank where the problem is faced. So RBI can arrange money for you in matter of minutes, which bank itself cannot do. That is why CRR is a very good provision. So liquidity coverage ratio as per the Basel norms suggests that bank should maintain high quality liquid assets, means cash, gold, high quality, high rated bonds, or very highly rated equities, etc. So bank should maintain assets which are cash or can be converted to cash very quickly, so that bank can repay to public if required. So that requires almost for cash outflow of 30 days. So whatever has been the outflow in the previous 30 days, that much bank has to maintain as liquid. Okay, so this is correct. In India, this is not discussed that much because CRR actually completes this requirement. So because of CRR, Indian banks are not challenged by this problem. So in Indian context, we do not read about it much. But this is very important today because of the banking failures in USA and other countries. Suddenly, all these terminologies or terms related to bank run is also very important, by the way. Okay, similarly, liquidity coverage, etc. All of these are very important. Then there is a counter-cyclical capital buffer is only held in common equity tier 1 capital. That is correct. What is counter cyclical capital buffer? So as per Basel norms, we have the capital adequacy ratio. The standard capital adequacy ratio is 8%. But in India, RBI has given target of 9%. Plus there is 2.5% of capital conservation buffer. Capital conservation buffer. Okay, so that is over and above the 9% CAR. Okay, so 11.5% banks are maintaining actually. On top of that, RBI can decide to impose additional 2.5 or not. So that would be counter cyclical capital buffer. Okay, so that is over and above the CAR, the capital conservation buffer. Okay, and on top of that, counter cyclical capital buffer. If all three are imposed, then it can be 14% CAR, which can be very, very difficult to maintain for banks. That is why it is imposed only when the situation seems to be very challenging. So is held only in common equity tier 1. So capital has certain categories, tier 1, tier 2. In the tier 1, banks can maintain only stocks, shares, equity. In the tier 2, banks can maintain convertible bonds or other debt instruments. Okay, so counter cyclical capital buffer, where banks are required to increase their tier 1 capital holding by additional 2.5%. so in this case both are correct. A is the answer. Okay, if you do not understand these basic terms like counter cyclical capital buffer or the capital conservation buffer, then please hook on to this channel. It won't be possible to cover it before PT, but after PT I will have a detailed session on the Basel norms where I will cover all of these terms. Question 11. With reference to the prompt corrective action PCA framework of RBI, consider the following statement. Now, why PCA is required? PCA is required when banks are not maintaining their CAR or other targets. Now, look at the option. First, it is applicable to the commercial banks as well as non-banking financial company. This is wrong. This is applicable only to the commercial banks. Second, it can be initiated on the basis of asset quality and profitability of the banks. That is correct. Asset quality must be maintained, means your each target should be complete. Tier 1 target, tier 2 target. You just do not have to meet your total target, but even the component targets. Okay, and profitability should also be there. Then third, RBI can place restriction on dividend distribution and branch expansion by bank. That is also correct. So this prompt corrective action list has various tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or list 1, list 2, list 3. If you are in list 1, not much restriction. But if you are in list 3, then number of restriction. In fact, it is almost impossible to continue doing business for bank as standard. Okay, bank will open, bank will perform function, but bank won't be able to give out loan in various categories. It won't be able to accept new deposits. It won't be able to open new branches. Likewise, many restrictions are there on banks. So prompt corrective action list is there so that bank maintain their discipline. If they do not maintain, then they are punished. Okay. 13th, with reference to bad banks recently in news, consider the following statement. It is an asset reconstruction company, ARC. It is actually correct. Bad bank is just a casual term, a journalistic term used for the ARCs. They buy the bad loans, okay, and then they try to encash them. So basically your ARC. So this first is correct. Second, it cannot lend money but take deposit. No, it does not perform standard banking functions. So there is no point of lending or deposit. So this is wrong. A is correct. Okay, now we come to the last question. Consider the following statement with reference to the cooperative banks. cooperative bank members are both customer and owner of the bank. That is correct. Okay. If you are a cooperative member, you own some shares in the bank. That means you are owner. Even if you are a very small owner, you are an owner. Okay, and you are obviously customer also, because if you are a member, most likely you have account there, you have taken loan from there. So having account in fact is must, is not about probability. Second, all cooperative banks have been brought under RBI supervision recently. This is incorrect. The primary credit societies or the rural cooperative banks, they are not under RBI. Okay, so not all of them are yet there. So one only is the answer. Okay, we are asked for correct here. And with this, we have completed our session. I hope this session has been helpful to you. And if you find this session helpful, please leave comments. Your comments really help the video. It improves its circulation, its visibility on YouTube, because YouTube algorithm consider those videos engaging, where it feels that there are more comments. People are engaging with that video. Comment is definitely worth much more than a like. Like is important, but comment far more important. So even if you do not have anything to say, just drop a simple smiley comment. Okay, just leave a simple 1 or 2 word comment, but please drop comments. Okay, your comments are really helpful. They improve the circulation. Thank you.